Millenia is almost here, and with it comes the brand new Flame Swordsman archetype. So today I'm going to give you everything you need to know about Flame Swordsman. What's potion? You got Matt here, and welcome back to another competitive Yu-Gi-Oh video. Millenia is about to release, and with it are coming some amazing new cards, including Transaction Rollback and Bonfire, as well as some amazing reprints in Rescue Ace, Turbulence, and Hydrant, and of course Triple Tactics Thrust. But we're also getting an amazing piece of legacy support in the form of the Flame Swordsman archetype. So in this video, I'll be covering the Flame Swordsman archetype, including an overview on what the cards do and how the deck works, cards and engines that you'll want to pair with it, and even cards that are going to help you beat it. So if you're excited for the video, then make sure to smash the like button, because if this video hits 200 likes, then I'll bring you the ultimate guide on the Earthbound Immortals deck, which is also releasing in Millenia. Also, if you like deck profiles, combo guides, and meta discussions, and competitive Yu-Gi-Oh videos just like this one, you're gonna love this channel. So make sure to subscribe and help us reach our new goal of 7,500 subscribers. But with that being said, it's time for us to find out how good is the Flame Swordsman archetype in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh. Let's jump into it. So the first thing you have to do whenever looking at a brand new archetype is going to be, of course, to ask the question, what do the cards even do? And to answer that question, you have to actually read the cards, and there are quite a few of them. Millenia is releasing 11 new Flame Swordsman cards, which is a ton of them. They are Ultimate Flame Swordsman, Fighting Flame Dragon, Fighting Flame Swordsman, Salamandra the Flying Flame Dragon, Mirage Swordsman, Flame Swords Realm, Salamandra Fusion, Salamandra with Chain, Flame Swords Dance, and Fighting Flame Sword. There are also 3 other older cards that I'm going to talk about in this strategy as well. They are Ferocious Flame Swordsman, the Original Flame Swordsman, and Dark Flare Knight. Starting off with the main deck monsters, of which there are 3 of them. And keep in mind that each of their effects are hard once per turns. Fighting Flame Swordsman is a level 4 Fire Warrior. On normal or special summon, it adds a spell or trap that mentions Flame Swordsman from deck to hand. If it's sent to the graveyard, you can also send a Flame Swordsman or monster that mentions it from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, except for itself. Most of the time, you'll be sending a Salamandra the Flying Flame Dragon. While it's equipped to a Flame Swordsman or a monster that mentions it, that monster gains 700 attack. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can target one warrior you control, equip it to that card. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add one Salamandra spell or trap from deck to hand. Mirage Swordsman is also part of the archetype, but is not going to see that much play. Its effect is that if a face-up fire fusion you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles, you can destroy both battling monsters. If this card is destroyed by battle or another card's effect, you can special summon one level 7 or lower monster that is Flame Swordsman or mentions it from your deck or extra deck. Speaking of the extra deck, let's start covering those monsters now. Starting off with Fighting Flame Dragon. It's a level 5 Fire Dragon fusion monster that requires 1 dragon and 1 Fire Warrior monster. As a quick effect, except during the damage step, you can target 1 warrior fusion you control and equip this card to it from your field or graveyard as an equip spell. While this card is equipped to a Flame Swordsman or a monster that mentions it, it gains 700 attack and it can make a second attack during each battle phase. Ultimate Flame Swordsman is the new boss monster of the Flame Swordsman archetype. It's a level 8 Fire Warrior fusion monster that requires Flame Swordsman and Fighting Flame Dragon as material. Its effect is that you can target 1 monster your opponent controls and destroy it, and if you do, inflict 500 damage. This is a quick effect if it has an equip card. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles, you can double its attack until the end of the turn, but if you do, destroy it in the end phase. Then we have Ferocious Flame Swordsman, the Link monster, which is a couple years old at this point. It's a Link 2 that requires any 2 monsters with different names. It gives a 500 attack boost to all warriors, and if it's destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can target 1 non-Link warrior in your graveyard and special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. It's a card that's not that important for the strategy. Flame Swordsman is the OG fusion monster with no effect, but it is technically a Fire Warrior extender thanks to fusion armaments. Dark Flare Knight is a fusion that was exclusively used to cheat out the OG Flame Swordsman. It won't be seeing much play anymore. Moving on to the spell cards, we have Fighting Flame Sword, a quick play spell. When you activate it, you have the choice of one of 3 effects. The first is you add a card that mentions Flame Swordsman from your deck to your hand except for itself. The second is when an attack is declared involving a Fire Warrior you control, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. And the final effect is when your opponent activates an effect that targets a Flame Swordsman or a monster that mentions it, you can negate that effect. Flame Swords Realm is the continuous spell. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when you normal summon a Fire Warrior monster. Once per turn, you can send 1 monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard and special summon 1 Flame Swordsman from your extra deck. This is treated as a fusion summon, and this effect is a soft once per turn. Once per turn, when a monster declares an attack, you can target 1 warrior you control, it loses exactly 1000 attack, but all other monsters you control gain 1000 attack, and the attack changes last until the end phase. Salamandra Fusion is an equip spell, where you can equip it only to a Fire Warrior, which it gains 700 attack. If the equipped monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can destroy this card instead. While equipped to a fusion monster, you can send this card and the equipped monster to the graveyard and special summon 1 Flame Swordsman or fusion that mentions it from your extra deck. This is treated as a fusion summon. As for the trap cards, we start off with Salamandra with Chain. You can target 1 fire on the field and equip this card to it and give it 700 attack. Then you can change 1 effect monster on the field to face down defense position. This is nice because it doesn't target. You can banish this card from your graveyard and fusion summon 1 Fire Warrior or Dragon fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling its materials from your hand, field, and or graveyard into the deck, but destroy it in the end phase. Flame Swords Dance is another trap card, which if a monster is special summoned, you can special summon one level 7 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck that is Flame Swordsman or mentions it, then Book of Moon a monster. And during your opponent's battle phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard and tribute one face down defense position monster. Special summon one Flame Swordsman or one monster that mentions it from your deck or extra deck. So now that we know what the cards do, what is the main game plan for the strategy? Well, after reading all the cards, going through a couple of different test hands and combos, I found that the strategy itself, the main goal of it, isn't to set up a bunch of negates or even to destroy monsters or Book of Moon monsters. Its main goal is to give your cards the advantage in battle, which is really slow compared to what we usually see now in Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2024. I will say that makes a lot of sense for what a Flame Swordsman archetype should be doing, but honestly, the problem is that's not very good. You can absolutely play the deck pure, you have the cards for it, but I struggle to see how it's going to perform well at a YCS and even at a regional for that matter. But the Flame Swordsman cards as an engine are actually quite strong, especially because they're all Fire Warriors, which pair really well with the Infernoble archetype, which also just happen to be Fire Warriors. As for other cards you have to be aware of in the strategy, we would look at Fusion Armament. That card there is really strong for what the strategy tries to do because it gets you access to another body on board, and the fact that it's going to be a fusion monster is absolutely critical. You not only get the original Flame Swordsman on the field for its name, but you also get the extra body, which can be critical for link climbing and for synchro plays, which Infernoble absolutely loves to do. You're also going to see, of course, the Infernoble cards. These cards are all really strong because they are, of course, Fire Warrior monsters, which is critical for what the strategy tries to do. They just blend so well together, and it makes honestly a seamless fit. And of course, the extra deck monsters really want to have access to all these equip cards, and there are so many different ways to equip cards with the Flame Swordsman strategy, so the pairing is so nice. And don't be surprised to see the Sinful Spoils engine made up of 3 copies of Wanted, 1 Diabell Star, and 1 original Sinful Spoils. These cards are all really good at getting out level 1 fire monsters, which the Infernoble deck definitely plays in the form of Ricardetto. The question is though, do you really want to be spending $450 to play these cards just in Flame Swordsman? Probably not. And of course, you're going to see a lot of hand traps and non-engine. Why though? Well, the pure Flame Swordsman deck is about 20 cards at the absolute maximum, giving the deck at least 15 spots for non-engine, which is significantly higher than what we see right now in the format. Traditionally in this format, we're seeing about 9 different spots in the main deck for non-engine pieces, including hand traps and board breakers. But in this strategy, you can definitely jump that up to 15, which is going to be a significant improvement to what the deck tries to do. Let's move on to cards that are going to help you beat the strategy, starting off with cards that are good on your turn 0. The first one is going to be Dimension Shifter. This card is absolutely incredible against pretty much every single one of the fire decks in the format today because first off, they're playing the Sinful Spoils package, and if you're under Dimension Shifter, they can't send cards to the graveyard for cost to be able to summon out cards and activate effects. On top of that, just in terms of the Flame Swordsman archetype themselves, even if you're not playing access to the Wanted package, really just not being able to send cards to the graveyard is pretty detrimental to the strategy because Ferocious Flame Swordsman, when it's sent to the graveyard, it can send another card to the graveyard. So even if your opponent decides to go for the Ferocious Flame Swordsman and sending the Salamandra, if you manage to get rid of the Salamandra by banishing it, then they can't actually search with it, which is really nice, and most of the time they only play 1 copy in the strategy as well. They also have a really tough time recurring resources from the banish zone as well. It's just not part of what the strategy tries to do. Another great card against this strategy on turn 0 is going to be Droll and Lockbird, especially when paired with the Infernoble cards. The reason being is both these different engines, they do quite a bit of searching. So having access to Droll and Lockbird to either shut down one engine or the other is going to be really nice to turn off one thing that the deck wants to do. But honestly, that kind of goes out the window if they're playing a very pure version of the deck because they only really search once or twice to the absolute maximum. As for cards that are great on your turn 1 is going to be Kashtira Fenrir. Not only does this card replace itself, which is critical for you, but on top of that, having the banishing face down is really nice. Now it does target, which can hurt quite a bit, especially when dealing with Fighting Flame Sword, the quick play spell, which has protection from targeting. But if Kashtira Fenrir can resolve, it's obviously really good because it shuts down what the entire strategy tries to do. Just getting rid of one card can really shut down what Flame Swordsman tries to do in terms of their game plan, and honestly, having that in the form of Fenrir, which replaces itself as well, just shows you how good of a card it is against Flame Swordsman. Another card that's really good against Flame Swordsman or a deck playing that engine is going to be Abyss Dweller. As for cards that are good going second, I do want to highlight, of course, Kashtira Fenrir and all the cards I mentioned earlier, but another one that I want to highlight that's really strong is going to be Super Polymerization. This card is absolutely incredible since the entire engine, the entire deck itself really, is going to be Fire Warrior monsters, so Garura goes absolutely crazy against that strategy. As for other cards that I would consider playing, there is Nibiru, which is not a bad card per se, but really only going to be that good when paired with another hand trap because you want to use it at the optimal time. And of course, cards that are kind of like kaijus like Lava Golem and Sphere Mode are also really good, since most of the time an Infernoble player is going to be putting up a massive end board with multiple different monsters, so a single kaiju won't get the job done, but Lava Golem or Sphere Mode, if your deck can accommodate it, can be very strong. Here are a few other things you have to be ready for in case you're playing against this deck. First off, targeting effects can be really dangerous to go for because they have the effect of the Fighting Flame Sword, the quick play spell, to protect from that, so just keep that in mind. On top of that, the deck itself has a really solid option for follow-up as well because of all the cards they get in the graveyard. If they end up drawing the Fighting Flame Sword to get them access to pretty much anything they need to, they can turn their whole engine online because of access to the trap cards in the graveyard. Before we jump into the outro, let me say this. I feel like the deck itself, while it's a really interesting strategy that has a lot of unique ways to play the game, I feel like it's so underwhelming because of what Yu-Gi-Oh is today in 2024. The fact that a lot of these cards give a boost of 700 attack just really isn't that significant, and the actual effects that it gets in the battle phase just really aren't good either. Being able to tribute your opponent's face down monster for cost is really cool, but you can only activate that during your opponent's battle phase, and they can just skip the battle phase if absolutely necessary. I also feel like they really missed the mark. They could have made these cards so much better. If they're not going to give them negates, actually give them cards that just can link climb a lot easier within the own archetype, and of course make sure that the fusion monster is a lot more powerful than it actually is. Really all it gets is a double battle and a random quick effect pop if you're lucky, so it just feels a little bit lackluster to me. I also wish they kind of made the archetype into like an Ultimate Conductor Tyranno Light. The fact that you can just book a moon a bunch of different monsters then attack everything would have been really cool for what the Fighting Flame Swordsman archetype wanted to do, but honestly, because we're missing that, it just feels super lackluster, and I wish it was just slightly better in the format going forward. And there you have it. You now have an introduction on how to use or beat Flame Swordsman. Now let me know down in the comments, are you planning on picking up this deck? Personally, the testing and research I've done for this video is more than enough, especially considering all the new support we got for some pet decks from Millenia that are going to be really good for me. And of course, I also have the Yu-Gi-Oh budget challenge that I'm planning to bring you every single week. And I know a lot of you have been asking where episode 3 is. Unfortunately, before I left for the holidays, episode 3, the footage for it got corrupted, which means that I just couldn't bring it to you in time. So I had to redo it. But that being said, episode 3 will be live on Tuesday. It'll be the next video on this channel. But that being said, if you made it this far in the video, you must have enjoyed it. So do me a favor and smash the like button. Remember, if this video hits 200 likes, I'll bring you a full guide on the Earthbound Immortal archetype and support. And of course, make sure to follow me on Twitter as well for exclusive content and sneak peeks. The link is in the description of every single one of my videos. And finally, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell for more amazing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh videos and to help us reach our new goal of 7,500 subscribers. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.